Mr. President, I want to just thank my colleague from Pennsylvania, Senator Casey, for bringing to the attention of this body the fact that we have not done our constitutional responsibility in the advice and consent of appointments made by the President to the courts. I think we all understand the challenge on the Supreme Court of the United States, where the failure to hold a hearing on Judge Cardin is basically saying that the President's term is no longer 4 years, but 3 years in an election year. That makes no sense at all. We all have been talking about that, but as Senator Casey pointed out, this is now becoming a matter for our district courts. So let me just share with my colleagues. This past week, I went by the U.S. District Court in Greenbelt in the state of Maryland, and I had a chance to talk with some of the judges that were there. And they were telling me that there is a serious urgency to fill the vacancies on the Maryland District Court. We have 2 vacancies on the Maryland District Court. One was appointed by the President in March of last year, Paul DeZinnis, to fill the vacancy. We have a judicial emergency in Maryland. The President did his job in making the nomination in March of 2015. And for reasons I don't quite understand, it took 6 months before the Judiciary Committee reported out that nomination. But they did. They reported it out in September of 2015, 6 months later. Now, this is not a controversial appointment. It passed by a voice vote of the Judiciary Committee. Paula Zinnes is well qualified. She's clerk for judges. She has a distinguished record in public service, public interest law, as well as in private service, but in private law firm. I can go through her full record. I've done it before. But Paula Zinnes has now been waiting over a year for consideration. So I'm sort of puzzled. Are the Republican leadership now telling us that the term of the President is no longer 4 years, but 2 years for the appointment of district court judges? This is a non-controversial appointment that should have been confirmed well before now and is still on the calendar. As my friend from Pennsylvania pointed out, when you look at the number of actions that this Congress has taken on President Obama's appointments, 17 confirmations by the Senate compared to a comparable number in 2008 when the Democrats controlled the Senate, and it was the last 2 years of the President Reagan's term, 68 nominations were filled in that year. 68. Excuse me, in President Bush's last term. 68 appointments were filled. Currently, we have 20 nominations on the executive calendar that have been approved by non-controversial votes of the Judiciary Committee, waiting for action. The number of vacancies have increased under this 2 years from 43 to 79. I know the distinguished leader is on the floor, and I'm just hopeful that we'll find a way forward that we can act on some of these nominations. So, Mr. President, I would yield the floor to my colleague from Pennsylvania. Mr. President, as I pointed out to the floor, the number of vacancies has increased during this term from 43 to 79. We have judicial emergencies in our state and many states around the nation. So I'm going to try a smaller number and see whether we could get agreement on that. And I would ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the following nominations: calendar 307, Zinnes; calendar number 357, Martinotti; calendar number 358, Rossiter; calendar number 359, Stanton. That the Senate proceed to vote without intervening action or debate on the nominations in the order listed, that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid on the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order to the nominations, that any related statements be printed in the record, the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and the Senate then resume legislative session.
Is there objection?
Object.